look, there'll be a lot of film to cover, not even from just the game, but also, going back to the practice we had the other day. Thought we started slow. That was disappointing. Both first units. So there'll be a handful of stuff we look at there. I know I think 0 for 4 third down offensively, and then things began to pick up. I thought Jared did a good job. I thought defensively we ended up, I think, with 4 takeaways, too many penalties for my liking. One of the things we just talked about, the importance of coming off of a 3-4 day trip like this in a lot of plays is the debrief, getting back home, cleaning things up. There were a number of things that we're going to have to improve on, miss some protections. And then there'll be a lot of positives too, and the key is the evaluation of these players, and getting a chance to have better tape, and to help make the decision process for us a little bit easier. So any questions?
You got RJ Harvey 8 touches early. How much did you want to see being a rookie, see him in a...
Yeah, part of the deal, like we divided up into kind of how we're going to play guys, phases. And he'll continue to get work with the ones, and just like Dobbins, RJ probably had maybe more snaps than Dobbins, and then next week we'll flip it up to relative to seeing some of these other backs earlier.
In terms of the other backs, Beatty, Watson have their moments. Maybe you could summarize.
You got to keep, I think we're building. We're trying to build cases for all of them. In fairness to the process, we're trying to keep giving them all these opportunities so that the decision can become a little bit easier. It's difficult right now, and we'll look at all the film. Go ahead.
Yeah. Do you think, like early on, starting slow, when the ones know they're going up against the number 2s, do you think there's a natural?
Well, I don't. The comment I made. Here's the deal. In this league, throughout the season, you're going to go against a lot of faceless opponents. You're going to have injuries. You're going to, you better be ready to put your best stuff on tape. And so, but I don't, that's a good question. But I think I don't know if they felt like the other day they got the work in, but nonetheless, it was just average to below average. Same thing. If I went through each one of them, they have some strengths. They do different things. The running style of Audric is a little bit more forward, a little heavier. Bidet is someone who gives you some versatility and protection, and I think Blake, you got a little bit of home run speed. So it's early still, and the key for us is, and I'm just talking about those 3, and the key for us is to make sure that. Jaleel, all of those guys are getting enough reps where it can help us in the end.
With Sherfield, his ability to contribute in a number of different ways.
Yeah. Listen, when you can block like he can and play special teams, it was a heck of a catch. He's had a good camp. Had a good week.
When you have sort of up and down through the roster, when you take the ball away 4 times, and I think once another one gave by penalty, how central is that? What is that in your messaging through the offseason? You want to take the ball?
Well, yeah, but look, there's positives in that, but my messaging was also directed at the first unit defense, and I don't think we were able to do that. I just think talking to the team, I wanted to make sure, like, here were some things that stood out. You guys took it away 4 times. That's a good thing. We had too many penalties. We got to get that cleaned up. There was just some things right off before I even put the tape on, that we have to be prepared to clean up, and then some things that were part of winning a game.
Where do you look at the timeline of things you want to clean up? Going into?
Yeah, I think that the teams that do it best, are are that sense of urgency is now. There's some mistakes that are going to happen, but it's the pre-snap. It's the illegal man downfield. There's a handful of these things that those have to be cleaned up like tomorrow. So I do think it's important when we come to work tomorrow, and it's not just the players. This is the first road trip for us, and I've got 14 things written down that I'm pissed off about that have nothing to do with the game, and so that's part of the debrief too. And so the willingness of the player, employee, all of us to accept and make those corrections, I think, are important.
How do you think Stidham stays sharp and able to perform like this when he really hadn't played since this time last year?
Well, he has. If you watch him practice, he's playing a lot. And then if you really watch practice, you're seeing he's with some of these ones because the receivers are in and out, and so none of them have played. And so Steady's one of those guys that, man, he's a rhythm player, but he's had countless snaps, in the OTAs, mini camp. So I think relative to a game, I understand the question, but man, those guys are. There's so much that goes into their preparation and their drops and their mechanics and the rhythm of each play. I think his experience is very evident when you watch him.
For Bo in the development process, what do you go into a first preseason game looking to see him and knowing he's going to get?
It's not just him. Look, the key is move the team, move the ball. We'll look at that tape. There'll be a play or two that I'm sure we can clean up. And I think overall I don't know how many snaps each of the QBs had. Let's say counting Thursday and then tonight. But I said to Kyle afterwards, we got a lot of good work done in 2 days that really gives us a lot of film to look at. And again, the timeline now, we have it, like the things that we did well, but the timeline and the sense of urgency, I think, is real important. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Last season, your team improved by 2 games over the previous season. 2 more wins will put you at 12-5. And last time the Broncos were 12-5, they won Super Bowl 50, 10 years ago, Super Bowl 60. Is this team better than last team?
Oh, look, I love the lead-in. All right. So I'm going to pretend that wasn't part of the question. The question was, is this team better than last year's? I think this year's team has a chance to be. But I think the biggest thing we always talk about, you're not ever picking up where you left off, but I do think this year's team has a chance to be better. We've added depth at certain positions we didn't have a year ago. We were in the largest cap deficit, dead money in the history of maybe all of sport, but certainly in the NFL with 90-some million. We're not in that position this year. It's 2/3 of an operating budget. So, but this team's going to have to. They're going to have to do that, and same amount of games, 1 game more. They're going to write this chapter, and we're going to all be here for it. And our job's is to try to accomplish that. But we're right at the beginning with a lot of work ahead of us.
I was just going to ask a follow-up to Bo. How do you evaluate the intentional grounding in the end zone? Is that any kind of teaching point? Or is it just
Yeah, I want to see it because I didn't get a clean look on the sideline. So when I see the film and then understand it, certainly, it would be.
When you signed Sherfield, there was a lot of talk about his special teams work. Did you have sort of a vision for him?
Yeah, there was a vision. Absolutely, there was a vision. He's physical as a blocker, and he can run. And there was a time in New Orleans when we had a variety of receiver combinations, but Devery Henderson, Robert Meacham were guys that could run and block. And so you can look at that and say, well, they're going to run the ball when they're in there. And then it came off of heavy play action, and there were a lot of shot plays. So the vision for him was, obviously, receiver 5, 4-core special team. He's physical in the run game, and he can run. And so there's a lot you can do with that, if that makes sense. And I think he's, when you get a free agent, you don't always, you're more in tune maybe with a draft pick, but there are some things maybe that he even surprises you with. And I think he's had a good camp. He's a very serious player, a very focused player. Intentional would be a good word to describe, his how he approaches the game, and that role is clear. Then, I mean, there's a lot you can do with that.
Just to follow up on Thursday, Henningsen, did that come back as an Achilles?
Yeah, he'll be having surgery when we get back to Denver, and it did come back as an Achilles tear. So unfortunately, I hate that for him, and that'll put him out for the season.